Here comes Stuart. I can ask him what time is good to reach him. Hey, Stuart.
Hey, Judith. How you doing? Hello, everybody.
Okay. What time of the day can I reach you by phone?
You talking to me?
Yes.
Depends on the day. Tomorrow I'm flexible, so anytime after 10 in the morning would be cool.
Okay. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow. I need to have a conversation with you and a couple of other people.
Okay. If you want to shoot me a text, just give me a heads up for when you'd be calling. That'd make it easier for me. Can you do that? Otherwise, just give me a call. If I can do it, then I'll do it then.
Okay.
But I have flexibility.
Well, tell me what would be good for you. I mean, I've got a dentist appointment at 10:30.
Yeah.
And
whatever works for you. I'm around. I'm writing tomorrow and be at my desk, and so whatever you call is fine. I'll just make the time.
I'm thinking sometime like 11:30 in the morning.
That'd be fine.
Great.
You have my cell number?
Let me get it from you.
I'll email her.
I don't report it. It's not for publication, so.
Well, Melissa will send it.
Okay. Melissa, if you find out that you need me to call Judith with it, you give me Judith's number and I'll call her with it.
Okay.
Okay. I like to preserve some modicum of privacy.
Well, yeah, I don't give out my cell phone number for that reason. Doctors' offices are always asking for it, and I say, no, I don't do that.
So I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. Is Peter on?
I don't think.
Not yet.
So who are we? You, me, Brian. I don't think we have a quorum yet.
I don't see Connor. Or James. No text messages. That's good.
I think that's James coming in.
Good evening, everybody.
With the golden notebook sign. Hi, Brian.
I haven't heard from Connor. I'm not sure if he's still laid up. I don't know. I didn't hear from him.
That's not what I meant to do. Sorry.
Still recording, but I don't have it.
I went in to like send you the emails and I'm like, I'll just worry about it later.
There's Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Melissa. Hi, everybody.
I guess we got a quorum.
We do, and it is 6:30. So I would like to call to order the regular held by Zoom meeting of the Woodstock Planning Board for March 17th, 2022. We do have a quorum. Melissa, do you have any updates to the agenda?
Just one. We received that email from Miss Jackson. That was it.
Okay. Okay, so we have the minutes from February 17th and March 3rd.
And February 3rd. Those three.
Okay, and February 3rd. So if everybody's okay with them, I'd like to adopt them as is. Do I hear a vote on that?
I'm in
Motion
favor.
to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so under communications and announcements, we have a letter from Cuddy and Fetter regarding the gas station on Route 28 that they're waiting to come back before us. We have a letter from Jekowitz and Guvitz regarding the Nicholas and Chalklin case with the wetlands, and they're going to be in front of us next meeting. We have two emails from Zwilling regarding the Bearsville Center, which has to do with the tree cutting. We have an email from Pierce, which is the neighbors to the Fleischman's Bridge, and they're fine with it. We have the Sopas Creek newsletter. We have an email from Paul Fleischman giving us the DEC permits and information regarding his wetlands watercourse permit. We have emails and attachments from Michael Veach of the Tree Committee regarding mostly the code. We have 2 emails and attachments from Maine versus the new study on 5G, which was received March 11th. We have an email from Darger regarding the swindle case, which is the question over lot lines. An emailed application from T-Mobile Northeast, which was received March 14th. We have an email from McHan regarding the colony in favor. Email from Helmick regarding the Pearl application, which is a subdivision, again, questioning lot lines. And then we have the email from Supervisor McKenna regarding amending the zoning law, which we are going to discuss at the end of the hearings. So tonight we have 6 public hearings. The planning board has had at least 1 sketch plan review, if not 2 on most of these. We have done site visits on all of them and have reviewed them. So basically this is a public hearing for the public to have their say on the cases in front of us. So,
Peter?
Yep.
Regarding Swindell, can you give me an SBL for the people who wrote us the
Yeah, I
is it
think
here?
that
Darragar?
yeah.
Darragar. Because I don't see them when I look at the properties on either side of and across the road. I don't see that name.
Yeah, they own the adjoining lot on the other side of them. They have 2 lots, I believe. The one lot is empty and their house is on, or the other lot has an old house or something, and their lot is one lot over.
So they're north?
They're north.
Okay.
Their concern is about, surveyed property lines, which is not something that we get involved in.
Well, it's just that when I look at these properties next door, I don't see their name at all, so I don't know where they are. But that's all right, unless you think it matters.
Yeah, like I said, their question was about that. Anyway, so for our first public hearing, we have Patrick Swindell, SUP 22-0662. And this is a virtual public hearing for a special use permit application to construct a new house in the Scenic overlay located in the R5 zoning district at 60 Crosspatch Road in Willow. And the rep is Christopher Compton. Yep, I see you. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Would you like the maps up for their drawing?
If you can put it up, that would be great.
Well, this is, wait a minute. I do have to actually do the stair sheen. All right, that is the view as of 2021 from the air.
Nadia, I see your hand, but we won't ask for public comment until we get there in a few minutes. So you can put your hand down, and then when that comes, we'll get there. Thank you.
Now I also have their sketch. There it is. So
Perfect.
whichever one you want.
You can leave that up.
I was the rep who went there.
Yep, Judy was the rep and went to the site and saw that everything looked in order and it wasn't on a cliff or a precipitous area or visible from anywhere else. So I'd like to ask Christopher if he would address the public and the planning board and tell us.
Somebody's not muted.
Everybody ready?
Okay, yes.
Hang on one second, Chris. Oliver, I see your hand. no one can speak until we ask for public comment, okay? Thank you. Christopher, it's you. You're on.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone from the board and the public for joining us for this evening's discussion. I also have Holly Houghton. You'll see her picture and her name in the participants. She is also the owner of the property. She and her husband Patrick are looking to develop this 3,000 square foot single family house for themselves and their young children. And we look forward to getting any comments from the board or from the public relative to the proposed improvements within the scenic overlay. I know Judy has gone out there, and I believe that she met with Patrick at the site, and they reviewed the plans and understood what was proposed. And I think that everything that is currently shown on the site plan and in the drawings that were provided to the board and to the town relative to the application reflect the best practices as far as developing or building in the scenic overlay, use of dark materials, keeping the amount of glass that's exposed to 25%, and generally being subdued and subtle in the way the project's put together. And so we look forward to a favorable review, as well as any comments and any ideas that may make this a more suitable project above and beyond what's already been presented. I can just briefly speak to the email that was shared with me from the adjacent property owner. I believe they were concerned about the location of the property line. And as is typical in a project like this, the property lines will be established by the surveyor. The setbacks that are required in the zoning ordinance are 25 feet for a project like this. We're showing currently a roughly 35 foot setback. It's a little more than that. And that's on the bias so that the entire house is set well within the required buildable area, and wouldn't under the current codes encroach on the neighbor's property, either as a shadow or a too close to the property line. So I don't know of any other questions. If the board has questions, I'd be happy to address them specifically or in general. And I believe that's what I can offer this evening so far.
Okay, Christopher, let me ask the public that's in attendance today if there's anybody in the public for this case that has a question.
Okay, I saw Nadia, and I saw Nadia first, so we're going to let Nadia speak. Just a reminder, it's a public hearing, so try to keep it brief, and I think you're muted.
Okay, I think I unmuted myself. Can you hear me? All right, thank you so much. And I will keep this brief, just a couple minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you for holding this hearing and the opportunity to speak. I've been on other hearings as well. My name is Nadia Steins. I'm a lifelong resident of Crosspatch Road. And I just want to be clear that my primary concern is to see Woodstock zoning code upheld and enforced. I'm interested in Mr. Compton's comments about the lot lines, but I will talk more about the zoning code at this point. Mr. Swindell has proposed building on 1.2 acres in the R5 zoning district. And even though the zoning code allows building on pre-existing smaller lots than stipulated by a zoning district, any construction has to follow the current requirements of that district. So for context, I'd just like to remind everyone that R5 areas are those that are ecologically most sensitive, and based on drainage, topography, and rural and aesthetic value should have very low density residential growth. Mr. Swindell's property has never been built on, and it is classified as rural vacant, even though on the environmental assessment form, I noted that he had selected residential suburban. So that is a question. Mr. Swindell's lot is less than 1/4 of the required size for the R5 district, which is a significant gap. But he is proposing to build a 3,000 square foot house plus 900 square feet of decking And by way of context, this would make his house not only far larger than any on Crosspatch Road, but pretty much in all of Willow, including those that are on far larger lots. So a couple of specific points that I hope we will reach better understanding about. Mr. Swindell's proposal is currently submitted, does not appear to meet two key requirements for the R5 district, which is a minimum open space of 80%. The submitted environmental assessment form that the public has been able to see lacks any information on the total acreage to be disturbed. The answer of the applicant to section 3B in the environmental assessment form is simply to be confirmed. So there's no information. And then the question of the need for minimum 75-foot yard distances. The submitted plans state that there will be minimum property line setbacks of only 25 feet and shows one side of the house at only 35 feet from the presumed northern property line. So in closing, I would urge the planning board to not issue a waiver for the special use permit. The standards of the scenic overlay in the zoning code, as you all know very well, go beyond whether a property is visible from below, including drainage, natural landforms and buffers, minimal tree cutting, and glare reduction.
Hey, Nadia.
And yes.
Pause. The waiver that was filled out wasn't for the case. It was for the public hearing. And this is the public hearing right now. So his waiver wasn't applicable.
Oh, because the waiver form, the box for the waiver form was checked for special use permit.
Yes, so he requested a waiver, but he didn't get one. That's why we're here right now with a public hearing. If he
that's excellent.
Accepted for a waiver, he wouldn't have went through. He would have had one meeting with the planning board and a resolution would have been drawn up. He's here now because the waiver was not gone through.
Okay, that's excellent. Glad to know it. To
further explain.
Yes, because the box was checked for the whole special use permit. So I'm glad to have that clarification and always interested in learning more. So in closing, I would just say that my family and all of our neighbors have always had to adhere to scenic overlay requirements, even for relatively small projects like sheds, additions, and solar panels. So it's not only about whether a property can be seen from below. And I would just finally say that the town did mistakenly issue a driveway permit for Mr. Swindell before the project was even under proper consideration. So I hope that going forward, these considerations around the R5 zoning, lot lines, and all of the concerns around scenic overlay will be fully considered before any movement is made on this project. Thank you very much again for the hearing and for all of your time and attention tonight.
Okay. Is there anybody else from the public have something to do with this case?
I saw an Oliver, but I can't see anything when Judy's sharing the screen. So
he's here now, but here he comes.
You just have to unmute yourself.
Please make it short. We're running out of time here.
Yes, I hope you hear me because I'm currently in Spain traveling. I'm the direct neighbor of the Swindell family. So when I met Mr. Swindell, he told me about a small farmhouse. And so I am surprised that the small farmhouse will be a 3,000 square feet. My own house, as an example, is 1,200 square feet. So this is my concern too. It's I am not supposed, when I talk with Mr. Swindell, he told me that I would not even see his house. So now I would like to know how it would look, with a 3,000 square feet house. That's my question.
Okay, is there anybody else in the public here for this case?
Yes. Hi, can we speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Say who you are. Oh, my name is Sunny DeRuger. My husband, Mark, our friend Mark. Thanks for letting us speak tonight. we sent a letter to the planning board detailing our concerns as the adjacent property owners. In summary, we believe that this project cannot go forward until clear boundaries are established and it can be shown that all distance requirements can be met. The future use and enjoyment of our land is at stake. We also hope that Mr. Swindell and his contractors will have more respectful hours of operation and will be diligent in limiting noise and light during any future construction.
Thank you. And this is Mark Peretz here. And my only other question is, I'm new on this case here. I'm speaking on behalf of Mark and Sunny here. I'm just curious to know, is this house in R5 zone? And if it is in R5 zone, what's the size of this lot? And is there some way that
it's called pre-existing non-conforming, and we have lots of small lots in zones that aren't the size of the zone, thankfully.
Gotcha.
And the smaller lots have smaller setbacks as opposed to larger lots.
what's the side yard setback here?
Did Chris say 25?
I believe it's 25, right?
Code is 25, and we're proposing 35, an extra 10 feet beyond what's minimally required.
Okay, all right.
And just a lot of that is all within the building department. The building department refers the cases to us, and it's all met prior. It has to.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
I'll echo what Melissa was saying. When we get a project referred to us by the building department, it means it has met all the zoning requirements.
Gotcha.
Or we wouldn't get it. So it has already met all the zoning requirements, and that's why it gets referred to us.
Okay, 25-foot side yard setbacks.
Right.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public have a question on this case?
Nadia, just please keep it brief.
Yeah, I would like to then ask a clarifying question about that last point. Are you then saying that the side yard requirements for R5 zoning are completely pointless in effect when you have
if you have a 5-acre lot, then you have a different setback than if you have a 1-acre lot. It's an undersized lot. It's a pre-existing undersized lot.
So regardless of the R5 requirements that the zoning code table of area and bulk requirements
Once the lot is undersized, it has its own setbacks.
Wow. Okay.
So that's to allow, houses to be built on smaller lots so that there's room to get everything in. All right, kind of getting way behind here. Has anybody else got a question on this from the public?
No, we're
that cleared up our questions. What about the view when building?
Oh, okay. I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Please just make it really brief.
Please, we're way behind. We're running way behind. We're allowing 10 minutes per case, and we've been 20 on this one.
We're concerned that the house is going to be very big, that it could affect our views, and it just seems like very big for
very
big for the lot. And I see that the shed was extremely big and not kind of fitting in with it was just a very, very big industrial shed, and it leads me to have huge concerns about the views.
The shed was under 300 square foot and did not need planning board approval. So just so you know, like it's following zoning.
Okay. So what about the views? Are our views? I'm concerned that being that the house is so big, that our views are going to suffer.
It's blocking our, once it's built, it's blocking the view that we are enjoying as far as the forest and the mountain and everything else that's around here. And it's blocking it because we cannot see. Is there any consideration for neighbors that they cannot enjoy where we are and enjoy our environment?
Okay, they heard you. We got to move on, guys.
Okay.
Hearing no more, I'd like to take a motion to close the public hearing.
Stuart has his hand up, Peter.
Yeah.
Peter, if you permit me, I just have a couple of quick questions. The representative, when he was talking about the setback questions, he said it was built on the bias, and I just want to understand what that phrase means. You could explain
Look at the drawing, Stuart.
Yeah, I have it, but what's the bias? What does that mean?
It's at an angle to the property line.
Oh, so that's what the angle means? The bias is...
It's not parallel to the property line. It's on the bias.
That's what that means?
That's what that means.
Okay, the last question I have is whether, and this is for Peter or anyone else on the board, is there any ratio restriction for an undersized lot in terms of the square footage of the proposed building versus the size of the lot?
Under general standards, there's a requirement for open space on a lot, but as you get into the smaller lots, that changes. In other words, if it's a 5-acre lot in R5, then there's a definite square footage amount that you're allowed to develop. But as smaller lots, that changes, just like the setback changes.
And do you have a sense whether this proposal meets the smaller thresholds for an undersized lot? Or has that already been determined by the building department?
Yes, they got to review everything first before they send it to us.
Yeah. So what was the Ms. Stenzler raised an 80%
zoning as well
question? What's that?
So this is a waste of a
But it's different when an undersized lot.
At least
okay.
It's an.
Who's speaking, please?
I muted them.
Well, maybe they wanted to respond. I think that. Have they been given an opportunity to respond, the owner's representative, to these concerns?
If you'd like me to comment, I generally agree with the narrative that the board has represented, which is that we're in conformance with all of the zoning code requirements based on the pre-existing lot size requirements, that we've met setbacks, height, square footage, coverage, all of the applicable requirements according to the code. The purpose of this review is substantially to address the guidance provided in the Scenic overlay requirements, and that we are meeting those requirements as well in terms of good intentions. And I believe the project is within all criteria that's established in terms of what code is required. I believe that the owners have every intent of being good neighbors. They are currently residents of that same community and looking forward to being good neighbors and good stewards of the environment as it applies to their residents. So I don't think that this is inconsistent with the community in general, and that it does represent a standard of design and construction that's appropriate for this particular site.
It left.
No.
I can bring it back. I just thought the conversation was pretty much.
Actually, I'm trying to close the public hearing, so.
I know. We have two people raising their hand. Nadia, we really got to move on.
I understand, but I want to be very clear that I had an exchange with Ellen Casiaro, who is the zoning enforcement officer, around the R5 requirements. And she confirmed, and I will send it to you, Peter and Melissa, the correspondence I had with her, that all of the R5 zoning requirements apply even for pre-existing smaller lots. So we're hearing the opposite from the planning board. So I know you need to move on. I know that there is one other resident here that wants to speak, Dan and Maria, and then I'm done, but I will be following up on this because this is really very confusing.
Okay, well, I can tell you without a doubt that an undersized lot in R5 has a different side yard setback than a 5-acre lot. That's from the building department.
What about coverage though, Peter? It's in terms of the size of the building versus the size of the lot. Does that change for a smaller lot?
The amount of developed space changes for a smaller lot. Yes, it does.
Can I just offer again? I reviewed this prior to submitting it to the town, and I understand Nadia speaking to the zoning administrator. The code is very specific. It's not complicated or difficult to understand. There's a specific chart that says what the requirements are for pre-existing undersized lots in an R5 district, in an R3 district, whatever district you happen to be in. Again, as Peter mentioned, there are many small lots in Woodstock, all of which are, if they are pre-existing, are buildable lots, and they have specific requirements that need to be met. I believe that the code is clear. I believe that it should be reviewed and it should be followed. And I believe this project does represent those requirements. So unless there's some absolute clear reason why the code doesn't apply in this case, which I do believe it specifically applies as an undersized pre-existing lot, I think we've met all the requirements. In R5, R3, whatever zone you happen to be in, it is stipulated. It's fairly clear and easy to understand from what I've recognized in preparing the plans.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, one more, Dan and Maria, just please really quick. We got to get through to a bunch more public hearings.
I know you guys are running behind and need to close, and I'll make this brief. And just want to echo the sentiment of intentions of being good neighbors, an important note to close on. I think we're all in the same boat. We all understand that we're all on Crosspatch Road because we love it for all the same reasons. So anyone who wants to come here obviously loves it for the same reasons, and that means a lot to all of us. But the one phrase that caught my mind was consistent with the community, and I know the kind of origin of that phrase is that it's consistent with the entire Woodstock community, but I guess that's the one thing that's piqued our interest, is that the architect's work here isn't consistent with our community. We have a road of people with anywhere from 1 to 4 to 5 to 25 to 100 or 200 up the road acres, and we all have small structures on those acreages that are really pretty conservative and modest and set back. When we have 4 or 5 acres or 20 acres, they're set far back, and most of the land is undeveloped. So that's kind of the vibe, to bring it into sort of Woodstock vernacular of what we have. And I guess that's what piqued our interest with the architect's work.
Thank you for your comments. All right, Peter.
Okay, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, our 6:45 public hearing is with Paul and Kathleen Fleischman, which is Woodstock Wetlands and Watercourse Permit number 22-046. And this is a virtual public hearing for a wetlands and watercourse permit application for installation of a steel beam bridge within the watercourse and buffer area in the R5 zoning district located at 271 Mink Hollow Road in Lake Hill. And the board has reviewed this, and we have made our site visit, and this particular project is under the care of the DEC. They are the stream people, and they have the manpower and the money and the knowledge to make sure the project is done properly. So I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there anybody in the public for this particular case that has a question or a point to make?
Speak up because I can't hear you. I just want to share from your office. Well, you guys got 2, but we got a lovely email from someone who's in complete support, a neighbor that is in complete support of what they're doing.
Okay, since there's no one else in the public hearing and that is the letter that we got, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We now have before us the Lasher Funeral Home, Inc., Planning Board Case 22-1231. And this is a virtual public hearing for a subdivision application of a 4.81 acre lot into two parcels of 2.81 acres and 2 acres in the HR zoning district located at 100 Tinker Street in Woodstock. And again, we've had the site reps take a look at it. So I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I don't know who's the presenter. Is Peter's?
Michael Morehouse will be the presenter.
Okay, so Michael, would you please tell the public and the planning board what it is you're planning to do?
Yeah, how you doing? I'm having some camera issues, so I apologize about that.
No problem.
But right now the proposal is to have a 2-lot subdivision, the first lot being 2.81 acres and the first lot being 2.06 acres and the second one being 2.76 acres. And the plan, is to keep one vacant and keep the lot 1 as is.
Okay, let's ask the public if there's anybody in the public that has questions for you.
Ken, I just want to say I can't see anyone if you raise your hand, so please just speak up because if we're sharing screen, I can't see.
Melissa, if people use the little hand raise thingy, then they will show up at the top of the screen.
Okay.
Where is that thingy?
It's down. There's a little button that says reactions down at the bottom.
All right.
Okay. Thank
We're
you.
going to give it 5 seconds. Does anybody have any questions about the Lasher subdivision?
Or comments?
All right.
Oh, keep it going. I got one.
So Melissa, were there any letters or telephone comments from the public?
No.
Okay, hearing none. I'd
Hang
like
on.
to.
Cynthia Cohen raised her hand. Peter, hang on. We got one. Cynthia, speak.
Hi, I do have a question. Hi, all. I live next door to the Lasher property, and I actually think that it is a nice idea, given that it is currently a sort of a flood plot back there. It would be very challenging for anyone to build on it. But I was wondering about the egress from Library Lane into it. Is that part of Lot 1 or Lot 2? I can't tell from this map.
Let me back it out a little bit. It's part of Lot 2. It's part of the back part. See, there it is.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Because there was 2 blue lines, I wasn't sure what was next to what.
That's the driveway. That's an existing driveway, and there's also access to the road up here.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see that now. That's what concerns me because and Dennis as well, who I also know is on this call, because we live right next to that.
Okay, anybody else in the public have questions for this case?
Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
All right, hearing none, entertain a motion.
Hey,
what?
pause. We got 2 more. All right, Kara Lee, your turn.
So, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, hi. I decided to attend this meeting at the last second, and I do not have prior information, so I don't usually raise my hand to participate, so forgive me in advance. My question is this simply a discussion about the subdivision, or is it, oh, you should be able to see me, no? Okay. Or is it also a discussion about what's to be done with the land once the subdivision, assuming the subdivision is approved?
This is just a case for a subdivision. Just the case of subdividing the lot into 2 lots.
Okay, then you've answered my question and I appreciate the time.
Thanks,
Okay.
Carly.
Anybody else from the public have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Please identify yourself.
Hi.
State your name, please.
Dennis Bresak.
Thank you.
I live next to Cynthia, also on the on that road that leads to the second lot. I was aware of that. Does this have anything to do with the sale of the property? Because I know that that the property's been on the market. I don't know if it's been sold or it's in the process.
That I can't tell you. It just comes before us as a lot subdivision, dividing a lot into 2 lots.
Okay.
We're not privy to the whatever is going on with the sale unless it's brought before us. So all we have is an application for a subdivision.
Okay. And then that, so basically that other lot's going to remain forever wild?
We don't know that. We don't know what they intend to do with it. It just allows it to be dealt with separately from the property that has the old building on it and the parking lot.
This is Stuart here, as long as we're on the subject, is the proposed lot number 2, that's a buildable lot, I assume? Peter?
Well, it's my understanding that it's being used as a buffer, that the owner of it is using it as a buffer, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't come, an application for a building permit couldn't come sometime down the road. We know that it's a wetland, we know that it's a wet area, so it's pretty difficult to build in, but that's not before us.
Right.
You can see the line that is being proposed is roughly where my hand is moving. And this is all wetland buffer here. So it would be possible, I suppose, to build here, but I have no idea what the owners have in mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else from the public have a question on this case? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We now have William C. and Helen DeVoe, and this is a virtual and the public planning board case 22-1229. And this is a virtual public hearing for a subdivision application of 2.13 acres into 2 new lots of 1.29 and 0.84 acres in the HR zoning district located at 7 Elwyn Lane in Woodstock. And the rep is Bill Stade and Pretorius and Conrad. So I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Bill, why don't you tell the public and the board what you're proposing?
Bill, you're muted.
Can we hear me now?
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. All right. So we're looking to split a 1.29 acre lot into 2 lots. Again, being a 1.3 and a 0.84 acre lot. And we straddle 2 zoning lines, the Hamlet Commercial and the R15. The smaller lot will be in the R15 zone. We have enough space to adhere to all the zoning codes and building regulations. The DeVoes would like to divide this off for their son and daughter-in-law to build a house so they can have a family of their own in their own nice little house on the Elwyn Lane.
Okay. Are there any members in the public for this case that would like to ask a question? Okay, hearing none. Melissa, did you get any letters or phone calls?
Hello, can I make a comment?
We have someone talking. Can you introduce yourself first?
Art DiNapoli, I'm next door, 9 Elwyn Lane.
Hi, Mark, speak.
Sorry, phone. I'm concerned and wondering about the entrance. There's a very small road between Woodstock and my office. I'm wondering if there's going to be much traffic. If there is on that, then it's a tight fit, and if there's any concerns about that.
No, it's a single family home. It's not commercial. It's just going to be for the traffic for the house.
Okay. Is that wet back there? I know my property is half a marsh. Is that a problem?
Let me take a look. I'm DeVoe, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Nope, looks okay.
So it's just mine that's half a marsh. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other members of the public have a question for this case? Okay, Melissa, did you get any letters or phone calls?
I did not.
All right, hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we have now a case, Robert Pearl.
You caught up.
What's that?
You caught up. It's 7:12.
I caught up. Robert Pearl, Planning Board Case 21-1020B. And this is a virtual public hearing for a subdivision application of 112.29 acre lot into two parcels, 86.3 acres and 25.9 acre lots in the R5 zoning district located at 59 Silver Hollow Road in Willow. And the rep is Paula Chandler. And so I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Paula, why don't you tell the board and the public what you are proposing? Melissa, is they there?
She's muted.
Oh.
Can't see her. She's muted. Paul, are you muted? Unmute yourself.
Not hearing her.
Okay, good. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yay. Hi,
Paula. Here we are. I believe that this was historically, a while ago, they were two separate lots. And the previous owners had conjoined these two parcels into one parcel. But regardless of whether, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm 100% accurate about that. The 26 acre, almost close to 26 acre parcel has frontage, its access, and its only access is from Jessup Road. Okay, do you see it looks like a little flag lot there? Okay, and so that's the proposed, you know, it has been surveyed. I believe Don Brewer has done the surveying in Benicia. And so the proposal is to, you know, create a separate parcel of close to 26 acres. And I did get the letter from the adjacent neighbor, and they've, you know, understandably have concerns, as, you know, any adjacent neighbor would, if there's, you know, going to be change happening in the neighborhood. And I'm happy to address, you know, any and all of their concerns.
Okay, I see CJ Wise. If you could just unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm CJ. Obviously, I live at 123 Jessup Road, so I'm across the street from the driveway that this 26 acre lot would be using. You know, I noticed, you know, I fully appreciate the desire to, you know, build something else there. And I wanted to know if there was some sort of limit on what was going to be built there, if it was, you know, potentially going to be subdivided even further into additional lots, or what we were looking at. Are there any, you know, is that within the bounds of what's being discussed here? I mean, I'm a little bit, I feel like I don't have quite enough information.
Well, let me start by saying that usually if it's a case that we restrict development, it's because it is restricted. In other words, by the road or access. So in other words, if a property is so big it could have many lots, but the access to it wouldn't accommodate it, then we will say that you can't further subdivide, which is not the case here.
Okay, so he's asking for for like a single subdivision. And so this would be ostensibly for one house. Is that right?
Yeah, all we have to do when we do is create a lot, even though this was a lot before, we're still now creating a new lot. We just have to make sure that we have Board of Health approval for the septic, which I saw that we do, and that we have a curb cut access, driveway access. Those are the two concerns that we have to do when creating a lot. Until a building application comes before the building department, that would be the next step.
Okay, gotcha. Because I noticed too in the drawing, it didn't look like Marcus Grand's residence was reflected, and I know that no one's living there right now, but I think
is that on this part of the property?
Right.
It's a cutout of that property.
It's not
this here.
It's separate ownership. It abuts Jessup Road.
Yeah, so it's directly across from us is not only the driveway, but also the property that was formerly Marcus Grant's. He passed away, unfortunately, in a horrible fire about 2 years ago. And so his brother has not decided yet exactly what to rebuild. He's built something temporary while he tries to make that decision, but it was a very unexpected traumatic event.
But that's outside the boundary of this proposal, is it
right.
not?
So I guess my question, was just really, I guess I just really couldn't zero in on what is being proposed here. And
it's just a straight subdivision. They're taking one lot and making it two.
Okay.
When
something is a single lot, you can only build one building on it, or you can build multiple buildings.
That's completely up to the building department. They have their own set of codes that determine what can be built.
Okay,
let me make an observation, if I may. This is in the scenic overlay, and it's quite steep. So the places where things could be built and the kinds of things we would approve would be constrained by the fact that it's in the scenic overlay and it's visible.
Yeah, Marcus is at the bottom of the hill.
This is quite a hill.
Yeah, it is quite a hill. I know. We used to sled on it sometimes. Okay. All right. So I guess we just stay posted for more news. Is that right?
Yeah, as I said, if they, whenever a proposal comes for building, then it will go through the building department. And then, as Judy said, if the building is going to be put in the scenic overlay, then it would require a special use permit from the planning board.
Okay. And the scenic overlay, though, is anything sort of below the, because yes, the property basically goes like, it's vertical.
Anything above that purple line, which is the 1,200 foot contour line. You see where my hand is? Anything above that is in the scenic overlay. And almost everything here is.
Okay. But anything below that does not require permission.
Oh, it depends on what it is. But there are specific rules for the scenic overlay, and they're quite strict about what you can build.
Different standards for above 1,200 feet and below it.
Got it.
There are standards.
The building department, zoning enforcement officers determine all of that before it gets to us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So thank you.
Okay.
All right. I saw one more. Heidi, can you guys just unmute yourself?
We're good?
I hear you. Just introduce yourself first.
Okay. First of all, thank you for giving us an opportunity to express our concerns here. I'll try and go through them as briefly as possible. We share CJ's concern for exactly what buildings, how many, and where they will be placed. Where they will be placed is especially of concern to us since a big part of our property is contiguous, which leads me to the property lines. The property lines, the coordinates that are in that model sheet that is in the public file do not match what is on our survey map. So we are concerned with the fact that our property lines are in question here, and we need some guidance about how we pursue this. We don't want to just by default lose property in this process. We also are concerned about future environmental impact of the deforestation that's already happened. And the fact that, it's sort of the DEC said, well, case closed, and one good storm could change that. And there've been there's a lot of trees that got taken down, and the landscape has changed considerably, both on our property and on the street itself. And we have concerns about future changes. Also, we wanted to know, is there intent to remove any more trees and change the landscape any further? Because what happened was fairly radical, and we are very concerned about what's in store for us.
And also, I noticed that in the winter here, when we've had the snowstorms, we were left with a layer of ice right off of as if the grading was not right from what was done there. And so that can only get worse. And I think it's something that should be addressed.
And lastly, you know, understandably, we have quality of life concerns. Jessup Road is not wide and not in great shape. And I'm old, and I don't want to meet a backhoe face to face going in and out up to my house, you know, and it's state land up there and there's only one way in. So, you know, the aside from the noise and all of that, it's the traffic and the, you know, inconvenience is one thing, but you know, you gotta live. So we have concerns about that it just will be an indefinite period of construction, because we have no way of knowing what buildings are intended for there and where they're going to be placed. I mean, I can't tell from the file, where is that septic system? How close is it to our property line? I just can't, maybe it's there and I don't see it, but it was not easy for us to.
If I can make one observation,
sure.
The lines on this map are not accurate a great deal of the time, and we know that.
Okay.
So what you see in this you know, the photograph is probably accurate. That's a New York State 2021 flyover. And we are finding that our locations of wetlands and things like that are pretty good, but where the property lines are have to be determined by a survey. That's the only way to do this. And
so there has been a survey. What if their survey doesn't match our survey?
But that's a civil issue. Lot lines are done by a licensed surveyor, and we, as a planning board, have to take the licensed surveyor's map as correct.
What about my licensed surveyor?
Well, then that's a civil issue between the two surveyors. And your other question about what goes on the property, I understand your concern greatly. But before us is just a subdivision, and nothing before us is any development. So when that did happen, all the questions you have would be addressed as far as tree clearing, steep slope, all of that would come before us when development is proposed. But right now, it's just a lot line revision.
But if there's a septic plan,
right,
isn't it known what is going to go there?
Well, that's a funny thing. Yes, you have to have Board of Health septic approval to get the lot approved. And so that means perk tests were done, and the Board of Health, the County Board of Health approved the site for the septic. However, when the owners, whoever ends up being the owner, or whoever ends up applying for a building permit, could change that site. They could get a new Board of Health approval for a different site. We just have to have it in order to create the lot as a buildable lot, but it doesn't mean it has to be at that spot.
Can you confirm what the smallest lot could possibly be?
I think you're in R5. Let's see, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's probably R5.
I can check, just a moment.
Great.
It is R5.
R5.
Right.
5 acres.
So it's a 5 acre minimum lot.
Okay. See, because going back to CJ's question, if we looked at where the septic is in relationship to where the house would be, then you'd be able to figure out what is the maximum amount of subdivision they could ever do, which definitely is important to know because of the access onto Jessup Road, if that's going to be sufficient.
Well,
given how steep that property is, I think subdividing it would be a real question.
Right.
You wouldn't believe what they've done so far, though. I mean, it's really galling. I'm sorry, I raised my hand and I'm speaking out of turn. I'm just going to say, just to echo what Heidi said, you know, I mean, the number of trees they have taken down is extraordinary. I mean, this is like, I have never, you know, in my household, we always joke, who's read the Lorax? Does everyone know the Lorax? I mean, it's like the one slur over here. You're just cutting down the trees, the true full of trees left and right.
Well, I will say to that point, I used to look out my bedroom window and I could see nothing but the woods, and now I see sky, which is sad.
Exactly.
I just have a question, Stuart Lipkin here to CJ and Heidi. Have you taken up your concerns about the tree cutting with the zoning enforcement officer, the building department? Because they have enforcement powers over whatever the laws are in the town that they may restrict the amount of trees that can be cut.
Stuart, I just want to interject. Yes, typically. This was a case that was with us before, and they were in violation with DEC and have rectified it all. It took 3 years.
But done is done.
Yeah, that's the thing. They were in violation and they had to stop. And then it was like, well, the trees are gone. Yeah. So I'm going to build a pond here. It was like, I mean, you know, it was sort of a clever move on that person's part, I would say, because yes, you can't put a full grown tree back in place once you've taken it out. So
I understand. Did you have input to the DEC at the time that was going on?
No, we were just kind of overwhelmed and at a loss. And we just thought it was during Sandy too. It was like when Sandy was happening and everything was kind of chaotic. And I think we were all just really
surviving.
Yeah.
So good. And
if I may, this is Brian. I did the site visit on this, and hearing what I'm hearing now, I can promise you moving forward, this is going to be on my radar.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have no judgment by my question. I'm just trying to get information as to your perspective. That's all. Okay. Thank you.
We certainly understand your concerns about the development of it. But unfortunately for us right now, it's just a subdivision and there's no other application before us. So is there any other questions from the public regarding this case?
I would like to respond to people's concerns. Can you hear me? I'm not sure.
Sure. Yes.
In reference to, you know, I really understand, I have neighbors across the street, neighbors next door. You know, it's been a vacant piece of land forever. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen here? And, you know, no one wants their quality of life disturbed in any way, shape or form. And, you know, I had seen this land many, many years ago, and I believe it was after Sandy, and in reference to trees being, I went up there so long ago and all I could see was blow down. Not someone cutting a bunch of trees down, but I have never seen such a mess in my life of trees that were blown down. Now, I don't know, fast forward, whether other trees were cut to create the pond area, and I guess it's a moot point because what has happened has happened. In reference to concerns about stormwater runoff or, you know, the water affecting other people's properties, you know, the DEP was heavily involved. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent to remediate and protect for stormwater, you know, to put things in place to protect to control and remediate storm water runoff. So any fears of and it had to meet 100-year flood standards. So in reference to like, oh my gosh, is water going to come down here and flood my house or the road or anything like that? The DEP was heavily involved, engineering. I mean, I've never seen such an engineered site before. In reference to the existing location of the proposed, you know, septic where the Board of Health approval was given, the building site for a house on this property is, you know, you go up the driveway, which I think someone had mentioned it was, you know, wonderful sledding hill there, but, you know, you get up to the top there, there's ample parking for, I mean, that's where the up there is where the septic is, where it is, the land has been perked for a septic system. Up there is where a house, that's where someone would be building a house. So it's not next to anyone, it's not next to a neighbor. You know, it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna be visible. You know, this is in scenic overlay, which, you know, translates into every single tree that is cut that's bigger than, you know, a certain number of inches in diameter has to be flagged and approved. You know, if any further tree cutting that would happen would be, you know, solely for the creation of the septic leach field. Okay. You know, in reference to further subdividing, I cannot speak for that 100%. I do know that Bob Pearl doesn't have an interest in having that turn into a romper room with a bunch of houses up there. You know, this is next to his property. He's a steward of the land. He loves his, you know, he loves to hike. You know, he has chosen to, you know, subdivide this and sell this. But I think that, well, you know, it's not being deed restricted, but I in reference to construction, you know, vehicles, you know, they would be going up the driveway and working, you know, in the upper part of that land. No one's going to be parking on Jessup Road. There's plenty of space to park, you know, in next to the driveway. You know, they're going to be parking. No one's going to be parking and walking up that hill to do work. They're going to be driving up there. They'll be working up there. And in reference to noise with construction, I understand, because I have, where I live, there's a road right in front of my house, like 10 feet, you know, 20 feet in front of my house. And there's someone's building a house down the road. And I'm like, oh my goodness, am I going to hear all these trucks and, you know, forever going in front of my house and maybe running over my dog? But you know, surprisingly enough, it's very quiet. And whoever buys this property is going to be using, you know, a reputable builder, and you know, and for someone, and you know, hopefully the person who buys it is going to be a good neighbor to all of you. And I know that that's what your concerns.
Yeah, that is our concern, because right now it just doesn't really feel like things have been in good faith. You know, I mean, there were so many trees taken out. Yes. I mean, you know, as someone who's been there 23 years.
Was it the
it was not the blowdown. Like 20% of the trees that were taken out from the blowdown. And then it was like, and we're going to take out 4 times, 5 times that, you know, it's just, and then it was just, you know, it's just such a crazy thing to come upstate and cut down all of these trees to build a pond and take land that
they wanted mountain views.
Right, but clearly not meant to be built on. It was, you know, it was vertical land, right? It was all trees. There were some blowdown, and then to cut it all down, build a pond, and then ruin the water of our neighbor, Marcus Grant, who, you know, he had no drinking water for a long time. And that was, you know, that was a shame. And he relied on that. And it was a whole issue. So I'll turn it over to Heidi and her husband. But I mean, it's very concerning. We love our street, which is, you know, I have my little kids, you know, I know exactly, Heidi, where you and your husband live, and I think you have a swing set that we're always eyeing, and Lucy and Muffin used to be down the street, and Kathy Moody's dad built our house.
CJ, will you come visit me?
That's right.
Yeah,
CJ,
and John and Bev take care of us. We want our street, like, you know.
Right.
This is a public
And I just
hearing.
want to add, we've been here 35 years.
And we've heard your concerns. And
Yeah.
this is your subdivision. So again,
But
your concerns aren't really particularly to the subdivision. So we do need to move on.
Okay, if there's no other comments from the public, I'd like to make a motion or entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Peter, this is Brian. If I may, I'd like to make a motion to have somebody from the building department come to these public hearing meetings where there's any construction moving forward, because this is a consistent issue, and we keep parroting and echoing the same thing and over. It's the building department. It's the building department. And I think they need to hear some of this. That's my opinion.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the application pending draft resolution.
Which case are you talking about, Peter?
The one we just heard. I should have done it on the other ones, but on the one
we have one more. Then we have one more.
Let's do all of them after the hearing.
We can
have
add it
another
with the
hearing.
resolutions.
Don't we have
Okay.
another hearing to do?
Yep, one
Yes.
more.
Okay, so the next one is
Collagian.
yeah, Nicole Collagen, Planning Board Case 20-1224. And this is a recessed virtual public hearing of a subdivision application of a 68.5 acre lot into two parcels of 6+ acres and 62.5 acres in the R5 zoning district located at 404 Radcliffe Drive in Woodstock. And the representative is Medenbach and Eggers. So I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then I'll have whoever's the rep from Medenbach, please tell the public and the board what you're proposing.
Yep, it's Michael Morehouse here again. And right now for this map, a note was added for further restriction into revised lot 35, which was requested. And also the septic was approved for lot 35 as well. So that's really the only new parts on my end with regard to that one.
Okay. I was the site rep and I went up and looked at the lot. And I don't know if everybody on the board is aware of this, but there was a house on the end of this lot, which is on the very edge of the cliff on the very prominent viewscape. And there was a building there which was removed, just was taken down. And I just want to be clear that because where that house was is totally cleared around it and totally visible from the downscape, from the valley below, that it's going to be a struggle to try to put that house anywhere near there. So the house is not before us tonight. It's a simple lot subdivision, just like our other one. So please explain to us. And there was one other question, and that was the road. I don't know if that got solved. That is really not part of our peer review, but I don't know if you solved the issue about the access road. I believe it was solved, but
The HOA was solved, yes.
right. So I believe that issue.
That was the extra note that they added.
Yeah.
I went back and forth with the lawyers. That was the extra note that was added. And then there was other lawyers that were put it on pause for a little bit, and now we're back to complete the subdivision.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody from the public got questions regarding this proposal? All right, Melissa, was there any emails or letters or?
No, nothing. We just have Stuart raising his hand.
Yeah, there's one question, just refresh me. Is this in the scenic overlay?
Sure is.
No, actually, it's sort of on the edge of it. Let me go back. There's the edge of the scenic overlay.
Where?
Right there.
Purple?
The purple. So a little bit of it is. Most of it's below that. I'll turn off the contour lines because they confuse things. See, that's the edge of it right there. That's the 1200 line.
So to the left of that is higher than
That's
the
right.
1200 feet. Yeah.
That's right.
And where's this site that you're talking about, Peter?
Well, the real question will be what we have to do in a scenic overlay when we have a house proposal is we're going to need to get the exact elevation, because as Judy keeps pointing out, that purple line could be off 30 or 40 feet in reference to the or even.
Well, we can already see that there's a little cut in the property line, which probably is along the stream, and it's not in the right place.
Right.
So Peter, who provides us with the elevation? Is that something a surveyor does or some other engineer?
Yep, surveyor. A licensed surveyor has to give the exact elevation.
How do they
Just like for flood search, the same idea.
We have had cases before us where the surveyor did not provide an accurate elevation, so the owner may have to specify that.
Yeah, but again, before us is just a subdivision. There is no application for building right now. So is there anybody else in the public or on the board have any questions about this subdivision?
Have we had any comment from the public on this case?
We already had the public hearing. This is just reopening. So that was done.
Was there opposition? You have to refresh me on this. I'm sorry.
No.
There was a question from the Raycliffe Property Owners Homeowners Association as to whether the access, but they did solve that access issue.
Yeah.
So I believe that was it.
That was it.
So hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we got through that. So now we have under discussion the possible amending of Chapter 260 zoning law of the town of Woodstock. And this is to do with reference to the letter we got from the supervisor. And it has to do with the library looking to locate up in the Bearsville Flats. And that's a light industrial zone, that area. And when the codes were written for the light industrial zone, it did not permit residences, either multifamily or single family or apartments or anything, did not permit that. So the building department and the supervisor are suggesting that we change that. And I got to tell you that the planning board for years has been suggesting that in the same area, in the same light industrial area there. So planning board members, please say if you are in favor of it or not.
I have one concern, Peter. As I read what we were sent, it was a permission to do a library without an SUP, and I think it should have an SUP.
Well, you know what, the problem, Judy, is it's the same thing we have with the town board. The library board is a separate entity in the sense that they have their own tax zone and so on. And they claim to be exempt from planning board review, just like the town board does. They're their own entity. Now, we've asked the library that it would be nice if they would consent to planning board review so that the public could have an input as to what's going on, but that's a legal issue. I'm not sure, Judy, if they...
Well, let me make an observation, Peter. The use table doesn't specify which library. It just says libraries. That being the case, I would be in favor of, as a general thing, requiring it with a permit. And if they want to claim that they're exempt from that, that's fine. I have no other problems with what Bill sent us, but I do not think it ought to be permitted by I don't remember the language for this, or where you can, by right, I guess is the language.
You got a good point, Judy. It should have a site plan review, but I don't legally know where that stands. So,
but what I'm saying is, if we change the use table to require a permit, that doesn't mean that this particular library will have to have it. That's between them and our lawyers. But to establish it as a standard practice that a library would require a permit seems to me to be logical and not very burdensome.
No, but remember they fought us tooth and nail when they were trying to redo the library where it is. Yes, Stuart, go ahead.
Is this proposal from the supervisor, is that connected to the relocation of the library? Or
I'm sure it is.
Or not?
I'm sure it is.
What's the connection?
They can't do the move without permission. It's a much broader proposal and it allows housing, and I think that's all great. I'm very much in favor of the housing aspect of it.
Yeah, again, I don't know, Stuart, you know, the last time the library had a site plan that they were working on, they did not send it to the planning board. So I don't know if it's the same.
I remember we had a case with the library where there was a controversy over who would be the lead agency for environmental review and so on. So they were in front of us, were they not?
No. The discussion was, well, John, go ahead. John will know.
No, I don't believe they were before us.
Right.
Not in the last 10 years, Stuart.
What was that lead agency business? Oh, that was just on their own application, on their own process.
They got voted no, right, in the town, didn't they?
They wanted to be their own lead agency.
Yeah.
And
we reached an agreement with them.
Yeah, it went back and forth, and then
like 2 years ago, year and a half.
I would think on whether they required or not to come before us on the site plan, we ought to get an opinion from our lawyer on that.
But my question is, if we say as a general statement, apart from the particulars of this library because of its legal status, that in general, libraries should get a permit, that doesn't damage their right to say they have a right to be exempt.
Right. So we're in agreement that the proposal to change Chapter 260, the planning board is in agreement on. Do we want to do a poll, or does anybody specifically have an issue with it?
What's
just what I specified.
What's the chairman's view on this?
Like I said, now the library had never been an issue in the light industrial zone up there before. What was an issue was apartments and housing, and the planning board for years tried to change that and to permit housing in the light industrial. So I'm in favor of that.
Was that to increase the housing stock? Is that the idea?
It was because originally, and John will know a lot more, the light industrial was an industrial area. Literally, it was Rotron and Amatec, whatever, and it was industrial. And so the thinking by the planning people back then was, well, you don't want to have residential people in the middle of a commercial,
area
factory or something. But that's not the case anymore. The industrial part of it is not going to be the kind of industry that was originally seen. So that's why we were saying, in order for some of these people, landowners, to improve their property or the buildings that were there and do one business in one part of it, and to make it feasible to put apartments on the top or next to it, we thought was okay. But it never got changed in the code. So now they're actually changed the code.
I'm in favor of that aspect. And if nobody agrees with me on the library, then...
How Peter presented it was pretty much how I was presented it. It was really the housing aspect.
Well, and I want to support that, among other things. It's right in the area of the wellhead protection. So to have it be industrial would not be wonderful. Having it be housing makes sense. It's right out near Bearsville Flats.
What's John LaValle's perspective?
Well, housing has its issue out there too. We have 108 houses on the Bearsville Flats, which are not connected to the town sewer system. And they're right over the water, the wellhead.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you talk about wellhead protection, that's number one issue, not one building, not a library. The library has consistently avoided coming before the planning board. It's been very consistent. They want to maintain this legal, as far as I'm concerned, charade. So they're avoiding public scrutiny, in my estimation. And personally, I'm very offended by it, because they should be in the process of having a review before the planning board and before a public hearing. But the public doesn't get input when it comes to the library. They really want to maintain the fact that they're their own entity unto themselves, and they will do what they want. This is one of the reasons they've had such resistance on bonding.
Yes, this is true. Now, another point, both to Judy and to Stuart, about the housing in the light industrial. As John pointed out, it is over the wellhead. And we, long ago, the planning board kept insisting that we should extend the sewer line up to that area to provide sewer. And that kept getting shot down because everybody in town thought that the entire Bearsville corridor would then be connected to the town sewer and could be developed. And that's not the case. What's the case is that you have to petition to get into the sewer district, and the area in the light industrial area would have to petition to get in the sewer district. And they kind of lost steam because a lot of information said that because of the sand that it sits on, that the sewer systems aren't endangering the wellhead aquifer. Well, it seems to me that it would be safe if you could hook it up to the sewer system, but we never got that accomplished.
Well,
So I don't know that we can add it. Yes, John?
No, one of the reasons that Jay Wenk did the entire process of getting the oil tanks out of there was because they're over the wellhead. So right. Oil tanks, understandable. There were relatively few, but every house has a septic system. They're on very small parcels. Yep. And I never been a survey to really determine how many are failing. And before you know that, you just don't. I don't know if I can support additional housing out there at this point.
That's what I'm wondering, John. What if we say, yeah, we'll go for housing in the light industrial if it's connected to the town sewer?
Yeah, you have to put that codicil in there.
Let's do that.
We can certainly add conditions to our response. We're not in favor unless A, B, C, D, and E. So I wouldn't be hung up about that. I think we'd encourage it to be as active as
because once you change the code to allow apartments or dwellings or that's a big area. You could get another 100 units in there, and that would be pushing the septic system over that wellhead. That would not be good.
Judy, what's the verbiage that you wanted to add?
I wanted to add that libraries normally will be expected to have a special use permit.
I like that, if I may, and I also like some type of amendment regarding the housing, what was just discussed. I think those are two things.
Why don't we just say that, we won't agree to it unless the following stipulations are added. One, the library applications have to come before the planning board for SUP. I don't know if you need a site plan or not, but, and two, housing will not be, the housing request will not be approved unless it's stipulated that they'll be required to hook up to the effluent system.
Thank you.
Is that what it's called?
Effluent collection system.
I couldn't remember the second word. Yeah.
I'm just going to connect it to town sewer.
Yeah, that's a little clearer.
We don't have a sewer system.
Right.
Just as a matter of record, there's been a lot of exchange of old documentation about that in some of the groups that I'm in. And some documentation seems to suggest that the planning board opposed extending the sewer because they didn't think it was dangerous the way it is.
We got a report. We got a report saying that there was enough sand distance between the surface where the SDAs are and the aquifer that it wouldn't be a problem. But that was a technical response we got. And the other question is, and I think Judy's on it, on the aquifer protection plan, that they are trying to make some restrictions about what does happen over the wellhead and aquifer. So I don't know if these two things would match between changing, the chapter 260 of the code and what the committee on the aquifer protection have come up with.
So I have a question. The Bearsville flat houses, are those in light industrial or is it a different zone?
Different zone.
Mostly a different zone.
And is that covered by what the supervisor is asking? Or is that?
No, just the light industrial. Just
If you
the
would like
area.
to see, if you would like to see the map, I can bring it up.
I don't think it would help me. I'm just trying, I don't want to be more.
It's just those
confused
big
than-
commercial buildings, Stuart, you know, those old commercial buildings, that section, that's it.
Yeah. So
And
this
we did have an applicant from one of those buildings that asked if he could put a couple of cottages in.
IPA is looking to,
Well,
yeah,
didn't we have that on, was it Yeri Road? There was a,
that's it.
an application
Hill.
there, and they abandoned their request for a space up top for residential because there was an issue with zoning or something, right?
Right.
It wasn't an issue with zoning, it was their own issues. They
Okay,
just decided not to spend, I think, the money they thought it was gonna be.
okay.
But they did recreate the building that was gone through here, but they
Yeah.
are looking at creating housing.
Yeah. So Melissa, did you make a note of the two stipulations that we discussed in terms of
Of course
framing?
I did. You want me to
Okay.
read them back to you?
No, you don't have to do that, but just asked if you did. Just double checking. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple other memos. One is regarding the
Peter?
scenic what's that?
John
Are we
is
gonna
still
take
on it.
action?
I'm sorry, John.
Do we
Are
need
we
to
gonna
make a
take-
motion?
We're going to take any action on what came from the supervisor?
Well, I think that we're going to, I see Peter Cantine's got his hand up. What, Peter?
Are you taking any public input on this issue?
Well, technically, you would think if you're going to change the code, the zoning code, that requires a couple of series of things. One is the actual environmental impact study of it, and normally requires a public hearing to change the code.
Peter Cantine, are you thinking about joining the planning board? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, but I'd like to speak as a non.
Say something?
I just want, this is really an impromptu. Supervisor McKenna had a conversation and wanted planning board feedback on this. This isn't a public hearing. The town board handles all that for this. This is just purely planning board opinion. So it's really your discretion, Peter, but it's not a public hearing. It was just what the planning board thoughts are and how to proceed. Your call.
So, okay, so thank you for the option. So I'd just like to ask, like from a practical standpoint, per John's Laval's concern about more properties on private septic systems, how many are we potentially even talking about? Because I don't have the map in front of me, but I know the light industrial district is a small district, and I think the zoning is probably R3 up there. So are we talking about a lot of potential new housing at all?
Well, go ahead.
It depends on how it's defined. I mean, if you look at the I'll take this off so it's a little clearer. If you look at the housing nearby it, those are pretty small properties, and that's the light industrial, that green.
Oh, correct, but those are pre-existing non-conforming lot sizes, are they not?
That is true. I don't know what the lot size requirement is for light industrial. I'd have to do some research in the code.
Well, that's the thing, because it doesn't have residential in it. It's not included. And it would be a place to put cluster housing. You could actually do a cluster housing unit there. But I think the answer to Peter's question or John's is that this isn't a hearing over the supervisor's request. It's just sort of the board's feedback on it.
Right.
I think we're in favor of it, but with some restrictions or questions.
Yeah.
I see.
Because let me just say one more thing. Like imposing a restriction on a requirement to be on the town sewer, like effectively throws out, the option of more housing out the window, because the town sewer only goes up to the post office. So
right.
You can ask like a potential homeowner to spend $500,000 to bring the town sewer up there. It's not realistic. It's just let me ask you this: does the planning board or the town have any other needs or wants to bring the town sewer up? Is that a possibility?
Well, John certainly knows more, but let me just say one thing, Pete, in case you don't know or do know. we're talking about a forced main, which is a 4-inch line that can be buried under 212 very quickly and fairly inexpensively. So if all those houses in the flats and anything new developed in the light industrial could be serviced by that.
Look, it may be that the supervisor can find some funding from the federal government with the infrastructure bill to get this done. But
ask John, he's been through it.
Right, but we have new legislation now, so I don't know. I mean, I think we have a right to express our view to the supervisor, and it's up to them to carry the burden forward. I would think.
Yeah, no,
I agree.
Number one, not to be technical about it, but Peter, we don't have a sewer system. We really don't. We have a system that only carries liquids. That's why there's a septic tank at every single site currently served, because we only take the liquid. Because the cost to bury the pipes back in 1980 was so astronomical that we had to scale it back. So the system takes only liquids. So as Peter said, a relatively small pipe alongside of 212 going up there. Since, as you and I both know, if anyone, as I did many years ago, bicycles from Bearsville into town, I never pedaled. I coasted all the way, and you know it. It is downhill all the way. It is a natural flow. It would be one of the easiest additions you could ever do to a system. But it's been also talked about for, at least the last 42 years I know of.
Well, Dennis Larios quoted $80 a foot about 10 years ago. It's about a mile to go. So it's that translates to like $500,000, however you shake it. But unless Dennis was mistaken.
No, I don't think Dennis is Dennis is a very good engineer. No argument there.
I think it would be great for the town if we were able to do that. And per Stewart's idea, we should see if there's funding out there to.
That's correct. That's the only way to do it.
Well, we had a bike path too. I'll shut up now. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. We do have some other memos in front of us. We have one memo regarding the Scenic Overlay Code and the Zoning Redistricting Committee. Melissa's asking us to approve that memo.
I haven't spoke to Connor. We put it off because he wasn't here. I haven't heard any buzz. Do we want to? I mean, I know we're in support and all that, but I don't know what's going on with him and the ZRC, and it's up to you, Peter.
Motion to approve.
There we go.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next one. The next one is a memo regarding radio broadcast during emergency situations that we spoke about over the last couple of meetings. And I think it's a memo that Melissa put together to send to the town board, seeing if we can get something put in place. I think
it's really important. I remember during Irene, I had no idea where to get information, and during the ice storm, I still didn't.
And I think the final one was the one that you edited, Judy, is the final one that I will use. So go ahead, planning board members, make a motion.
I move we send that memo.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now for Stuart.
Now, but you got to make it fun, and you have to now add approve applications to be complete and approve resolutions.
Okay. Okay.
Could you repeat that, please? Because your voice dropped in the first part. I didn't quite catch it.
I think you can handle
Oh,
okay. All right, Stuart. So you got to approve the application pending
completion of a proposed resolution, but we're not at the resolutions haven't been done yet, or have they?
No, they're
resolutions are all done.
All right. So we do them separately.
Yeah.
Okay.
However you would like to, Stuart.
So the first motion is on Patrick Swindell, SUP 22-0662. To approve the application for a special use permit to construct a new house in the scenic overlay as set forth in the announcement from tonight's meeting, and to approve the resolution as drafted. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Nay. I'm a nay.
You're a nay for Patrick Swindell?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the motion carried, though, did it not?
Yeah.
Okay, the second is on application of Paul and Kathleen Fleischman, WWP case number 22-046 for wetlands and watercourse permit application as described in the agenda for tonight's meeting, and to approve the resolution on that matter as drafted.
So moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. It's unanimous. Okay. The third is on Lasher Funeral Home Incorporated, Planning Board, case number 22-1231, to approve the subdivision application as described in the agenda for tonight's meeting, and also to approve the resolution as drafted. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, next is William C. and Helen DeVoe, Planning Board case number 22-1229. Motion to approve an application for a subdivision as described in the agenda for tonight's meeting, and to approve the resolution as drafted. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Okay. Next, we doing okay so far?
Great. Continue.
Okay. Robert Pearl, P-E-R-L, Planning Board case number 21-1020B. It's an application. There's a motion to approve the application for a subdivision as described in the agenda for tonight's meeting, and to approve the resolution as drafted in connection with this matter. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none.
Opposed.
John Laval is opposed. Anyone else?
Brian.
Brian's opposed. So who's in favor? I am. Who else is in favor? Judith?
James.
James
Peter.
and Chairman. Okay, so Peter. So motion carries 4-2 with one absence. Okay. Next is case of Nigel Kalajian, Planning Board case number 20-1224. This is a motion to approve the application for a subdivision as described in the agenda for tonight's meeting, and to approve the resolution as drafted. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, is there a second? Is there a second to the motion? I apologize.
Second.
Okay, Judy seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. So that concludes the motions.
Thank you, Stuart. You did beautifully.
And I can take all of those off my map, right?
Yes, you can.
Please do.
I have one more. I want to return the escrow to Mr. Pelagian that we used in the beginning with the assessor and the discrepancy of a lot line revision and subdivision, because we are done with this.
Oh, I see that at the bottom. So this is a motion to return the escrow to Mr. Kalajian on case number 20-1224 in the amount of $65.38. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none. The motion carries. The escrow shall be returned forthwith.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Guys,
Stuart.
I just a few quick things. I left yesterday thinking we were going back to in person. The governor's website was not saying, changed its wording to not extended. And then this morning I came in to extend it through April 15th. So we are Zoom through April 15th.
Good.
Which really means through April 7th for us, right?
Yes. Yep.
So, Melissa, do you have my cell number? So if Judy calls you, you can give it to her?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it okay if I email her your cell number, or would you want me
That's
to?
fine. I just didn't want to state it at him.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know. I'm sending Judy a list of.
It's probably on the list of, yeah. Okay, that's good.
Oh, we got it. Yes. So our next meeting is March 31st. We are having our public hearing for Centerline Communications. And we're having the new sketch plan review of the new cell phone application.
Yeah, so we have 2 telecom cases on that night.
I did.
John?
Yeah, a quick question. Since they have been unable to answer any technical questions in the last 2 meetings, and the excuse being that they were not engineers, can we ask them to provide someone who can answer the questions?
And can we ask them to get the sign off from the town so we don't waste time again?
Well, we can always ask. I don't know if they're going to respond to answer favorably. In terms of the sign off from the town, there was an email that Melissa sent around from the supervisor expressing his view on one of the cases that Crown Castle, as I recall it, he was taking the position that Crown Castle has the authority to authorize these applications, and he provided a copy of the master management agreement. You know, that opens up a whole set of concerns on my part that I've been thinking about. I don't know if that's what Judy wants to talk to me about, but you know.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Something else.
John has his hand up there.
Well, Stuart, I'd love to know your concerns on this, number one. Number two is that the supervisor's 1 out of 5 votes.
Right, so
his vote carries no more weight than any of the other 4.
Well, this is what I wanted to get a sense from the board is whether you think that the supervisor speaks for the board on this, or whether we ought to ask Melissa to ask whether he's speaking for the board, you know, because, you know, I've been trying to get the board to come to grips with these applications, especially from a health perspective, because my understanding of the federal law is that as a planning board, as a regulatory body, we're prohibited by the federal statutes from considering the health effects of these applications, which are going to facilitate 5G. And yet there's a large complement of residents in the town who are quite concerned, and a number of them have sent us emails saying they suffered from hypersensitivity to exposure to electromagnetic radiation, which is what the tower puts out. And it's also been expressed to us that when you go up to 5G, that may even increase the amount of radiation. And so, and then recently we got an email from Steve Romine that quotes a Swedish study confirming that there are documented scientific findings on health effects, adverse health effects from exposure to 5G. And he also put in some anecdotal information about people who have worked for these cell companies and have been told to limit their time when they were working on towers to a certain number of minutes. I don't recall the exact number. I'd have to go back and read his email. So in order to reduce their exposure and protect their own health. So what is the town putting out? So my whole goal has been to try and get the town board to come to grips with this and to take on the issue and give it a hard look, because they're the ones that have the power to regulate what goes in their own tower. And I don't mean by municipal regulation. They're the owners of the tower and they're proprietors. And even the FCC has recognized that proprietors, municipal proprietors of their own communications towers have the right to set terms in their leases which are more restrictive in terms of the amount of radiation being allowed to emanate and what the FCC says is safe. And also, my concern is that the standard itself that the FCC follows for what's a safe level of radiation was developed, I think, in 1996 or 1998. And so in the 25 years since then, or 24, 25 years since then, there's been a body of scientific evidence that's called that standard into question. And there was an environmental lawsuit brought in the federal courts within the last few years that worked its way up to the U.S. Court of Appeals in Washington. And that court recently sent the matter back to the FCC to redetermine their opinion that the standard is still valid, because they didn't give a reasoned recognition of what the scientific evidence was that was presented to them. In other words, again, I'm not quoting the decision, but my sense of it is that they felt that they gave the science short shrift, or not enough consideration. And so they sent it back to them. So I don't know where that standard's going to come out. Meanwhile, we have people living in the town who are saying that it's causing them effects. And, to me, the health and safety of the residents is the primary responsibility. I think we might have just lost John. It's the primary responsibility of the elected and paid board members of the town board. And we're constrained. We're not allowed to consider that, but the town board is. So this has been my, desire to try and get the town board to come to grips with the health aspects and to deal with it, instead of just letting it sit with the planning board when our hands are really tied. And
can we politely suggest to the supervisor that we need to hear from the whole town board, and that we're not willing to waste our time on this until we know that it has been considered?
What do the members think? I don't see why we wouldn't do that, but I'm only one person, so I'd like to know what other people think.
Sounds good to me.
I fully support everything that Stuart just said. And the questions that I've asked had to do with the pattern of radiation, the amount of radiation coming out of every single thing, whether it's WDST, whether it's any radio station has a transmitted, and every one of them has a sign on the tower that you don't climb the tower while the thing is radiating. That's a standard policy and well known. So how much 5G, are they changing the frequency? Are they changing the power level? If they're increasing the frequency level, in order to maintain the same coverage area, they must increase the power level. That's just the way it works. The physics cannot be changed.
John, those are all valid points, but my point is even more fundamental. Like, who's going to deal with this issue? We legally can't do it. And that's why I've been focusing on who's authorizing the application. Because the applicants are the tenants on the tower. They don't own the property. And I don't think we've ever, we've always required owners or applicants to, if the owner's not before us, then they got to have a signed authority from the owner. And that's what's driving this. And for the town board to sit back there, and I'm sure they read the papers, and it's in the papers clearly, but, for them to sit back, so what? So we're obligated to rubber stamp under the federal regs an eligible facilities request to bring in 5G equipment and so on. And then, so what's the town board going to do? They're going to sit back and say, well, the planning board approved it. So, that's really not fair. And I don't know if I would want to continue serving if that were the case, because, I don't want to be a rubber stamp. I want to see the health and safety of the public protected. And I'm sure the town board members do also. But thus far, they've come, when we issued our decision on T-Mobile the first time around, one town board member was in the audience and made a very clear statement of support on behalf of the whole town board that it disrupted it undermined the camouflage elements that the town paid a lot of money for. So, they know these applications are with us, and yet we're volunteers. Our hands are tied by the federal restrictions, but theirs are not, because they own the tower. So I wish they would, grab a hold of this issue and take a deep dive into what are the health effects or not the health effects, and make a decision. If
Bill doesn't feel it's necessary to put it on their agenda because he thinks it's okay, how do we?
Then let him say that. Let him say that. At least then the public will know what's going on, and they'll know where the decisions are being made, instead of just send 100 people into our meetings when our hands are tied, and meanwhile the powers that be are sitting over there just kind of content to watch, get reelected, do their thing, and it's not a knock, but they're a political body, and we're not. But it's getting close to the point of where it's getting too much already.
Well, I'm asking the question I asked before. Do we waste our time with this without a clear statement from the board that supports their right to ask for this approval?
Okay, and let's say the answer, we don't get that statement. What will we do? Just let it go, and and the 60 days will run out.
It's gone.
The 60 days will run out, and they'll deem it granted. And we can make a statement that as to why we're not moving ahead on it, and let the town board weigh in or not. Look, I can't control what they do. They're elected and the salary. I'm just one resident in the town, and I'm a volunteer on this board. There's a limit to what I can do, but
what we can do as
I think that's the most prudent strategy that we could do given the options that we have.
All right, Stuart. Well, good point. I don't think we've heard the last of it, but you make a good point. And I think our board agrees with what you said. So I'd like to make one note before adjournment. A lot of folks today regarding these public cases were concerned about the subdivisions. We're concerned about what's going to happen on the lots that are being created. And that's not before us, it's just the subdivision. But our code does say that whenever we subdivide a lot, especially a bigger lot, like you take a 50-acre, 100-acre lot and you take 5 acres out, our board has the right to look at the use of the remaining lot. We actually have that right. And these cases, I don't think required it, but I think what a lot of the public was concerned about what's going to happen on these lots that we're creating and how much more can be divided and how much more can be done. And they're very good concerns. And we actually, in the code, can determine what can be done on the remaining lots after they're subdivided.
Right. I've seen several maps that say not for further subdivision, or yes, agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, especially on steep mountains, you may have 50 acres, but you may say you can only put 2 lots in because the roads and infrastructure to put 10 lots would be, bad. Yep. All right, anybody else have anything else before adjournment? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we've got a reprieve for our next meeting, Zoom. Good. And see you all then.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, Melissa.
Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you.